Welcome, Samantha, to Raw and Cook Vegan.
Hi,
So great to have you.
thank you.
And I don't know if you've seen some of my interviews before, Samantha, but what I like to do is first hear a little bit about how you were raised. Did your family have any nutritional awareness, or was it kind of sad diet? Or tell us a little bit about growing up and what you ate.
So, my family has across the board very sensitive stomachs. So, I believe when I was really young, my mom made everything herself, and she didn't really use butter. She used like mostly like oil, and she didn't really ever cook with like red meat. It would just be like chicken or fish. And she tried to incorporate like really healthy eating, I think, into our house in terms of like cleaner food.
Yeah.
And then once like my sister and I started getting older, I think things got really chaotic. I was working and she's very busy, and my dad works too. And so we started just kind of eating out a lot and just eating a typical sad diet. And then when I was in fourth grade, my stomach was really bothering me. And so we went to the doctor and he told me to cut out dairy. So from the time I was like 9, I pretty much didn't really eat dairy. And yeah, I mean, we tried to like eat healthy foods, but it was pretty standard. But we didn't eat a lot like fast food.
Okay. When you made that transition away from dairy, did you notice any immediate effects? Did it solve your problems?
I felt a lot better, and at that point, the doctor just came to the conclusion that I was lactose intolerant, and so we didn't do any further testing until I was older. But I definitely felt a lot better. Yeah.
Okay. So from 9 on, would you say you were kind of eating meat and vegetables and fruit and maybe some bad food once in a while, but still relatively healthy?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I ate like um, like Oreos and Cheetos sometimes and did that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
for the most part, it was like a typical child's diet, but maybe a little bit healthier.
Okay. Cool. All right. And at what age did you? Oh, and let me ask you this: aside from those issues that led to you giving up dairy, how would you characterize your health generally? Like, would you say that as you were growing up, did you have flus once a year? Did you have Did you have acne? Did you have any other issues that later on you think maybe might be attributed to diet?
Yeah, I was sick a lot actually. I wasn't sick like every day, but I would get sick 3, 4 times a year, and it was like really severe, like really high fevers, like 105 type fevers, and I had walking pneumonia like 3 or 4 times, and bronchitis, and my seasonal allergies were really bad, and animal allergies were really really bad, and I got the flu a lot. I just like I lived a normal life, but I was out of school a lot for like being sick with a fever or something.
Okay. And was that changed after you quit dairy, or did that still continue?
That still continued.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. Now, at what age did you start to kind of think about maybe this meat thing is not a great idea?
When I was like 19 to 20 is when I started. Well, I've always like sophomore year of high school, they showed us a video of Food Inc. I think they showed us.
Okay.
And at that point, I had been diagnosed with Crohn's disease, so I was already very, very limited to what I was eating, and I was kind of led in the direction of like your diet's already so limited, so you can't also quit eating meat. Even though I felt really bad after watching this documentary, I felt like it was a horrible thing contributing to the industry. But it wasn't until I started really feeling like I had control over my diet when I was like a sophomore in college. I was like 19 or 20 years old, that I really started looking into like healthy eating and clean eating, and then veganism.
Okay. And you kind of say there that you felt your diet was already restricted. Is that because of the Crohn's that you had kind of eliminated lots of foods from your diet?
Yeah. So I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 14, and at this point I was in high school, and I'm an athlete, so I was playing soccer and basketball and all kinds of things, and I was like 7 pounds as a freshman in high school, really underweight, really sick, and I stopped eating. So we finally went to the doctor, and I did a bunch of tests and all that, and colonoscopy and stuff, and got diagnosed. And at that point, doctors were saying diet didn't really have anything to do with Crohn's disease. So they put me on a whole bunch of medicine, and my mom and I kind of took my diet into our own hands. And I basically went on the white diet, which was like white bread, sliced turkey, white fish, egg whites, white flour, and like candy, essentially.
And was that effective in helping you a little bit with the Crohn's? Did some of the symptoms go away?
It helped me maintain Crohn's in a way so I wasn't sick all the time. And it also helped me gain weight, which was obviously necessary.
Yeah, okay. Now, for those that don't know, I mean, is Crohn's kind of like IBS? It's like you never know when you're going to like have to run to the bathroom kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's like a huge difference between Crohn's and IBS. Maybe Crohn's is a little bit more severe.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same idea.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you saw this Food Inc. and at first you were like, God, I don't eat anything as it is. How am I going to cut out the meat? So what happened that made you take that step finally, and then what did you start to see in terms of your health?
So sophomore year of college, I wasn't really sick anymore. I hadn't been sick for like 3 or 4 years in terms of Crohn's. Like I would have flare-ups every now and again, but in terms of my everyday life, the only symptoms I was having was like gas and bloating. But I wasn't going to the bathroom like 5 or 6 times a day, and so I was living by myself, obviously in a dorm room with, a roommate, but I wasn't with my parents, and I was on my own, and I really thought to myself, like, okay, if I'm not sick anymore, like, why am I still eating extremely sick? Like, why am I just eating the white food diet? And I was so bloated, and I just didn't feel it just didn't feel right, I guess, intuitively. And so I was eating in the cafeteria at this point, and so I started trying to, I was already eating, bananas and stuff, but I started eating, apples without the skin, or, putting steamed green beans on my plate, and, trying to incorporate more fruits and vegetables into my diet. And just in doing so, and, researching food and in learning about food, it led me to, a whole foods diet, essentially. I still was eating meat and eggs and stuff, but I cut out basically almost all processed food in general. And after cutting those out and really focusing on individual ingredients and what was making me feel good and what wasn't, I realized meat was not making me feel good, and and eating animals is just painful in itself. And so I stopped eating chicken and turkey, which was the only meat I was still eating, and so I was just really eating eggs and fish. And so I looked up why do vegans not eat eggs and fish, and I watched some videos and stuff, and I was like, that's it, I'm totally going vegan. And then a month later I stumbled across a Fully Raw Christina video, and then I've been raw ever since.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So how long? So would you say you were vegan for a little while and then you went raw?
Yeah, I was. So I played soccer in college all 4 years. Or last season just ended, and I went vegan in the middle of my junior season, and 3 days after season ended is when I found a Christina video, and I woke up the next morning and went raw. So I was only vegan for a month before.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now and you have now been raw for how long?
A year. I've been raw for a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So very interesting. And I kind of glossed. Well, maybe we'll come back to that a little bit later. But it's interesting. You said you maintained pretty intense physical activity. It sounds like. So
yeah.
You're always been athletic. So that's cool. Let me ask you about a few nutrients. What's your conclusion on B12? Do you take B12?
Yeah, I don't take any supplements at all. I'm open to taking a B12 supplement if I found myself in a problem, but I really, from my journey, I've really concluded that you can basically get everything you need from eating fruits and vegetables. Now I understand our stuff is super cleaned and the topsoil's messed up and all that, but I try to keep. If I purchase organic celery, I keep the dirt in the bottom sometimes, and it drives my mom crazy, but I do it in a natural way. And I'm hoping my dream for the future is to be self-sustainable and grow all my own food. So I'm hoping like through doing that, I'll be able to completely maintain like B12 and all that.
Okay, cool. Um, just so you know, I was like vegetarian for many years, and then I went vegan, and I never really took B12 consciously. I sometimes would eat things that had B12 in it, like say, one of those bars or something, or like a fortified product that might have B12 in it. But I never consciously took it. And then about a year or two ago, I started getting symptoms of B12 deficiency.
Yeah.
And taking it resolved those symptoms. So if you ever get like, shaking fingers or stuff like that, or weird nervous stuff, it could be B12.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, it can take like many years for it to reach that point. So, but anyway, the other nutrient I'm a little bit interested in is like vitamin D. I imagine you get outside quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm a very active person, and I love being outside, and especially playing a sport. Like I go to school in the South, and so it gets really, really hot in August, September, and so I'm in the sun a lot. And then, I don't know. This is my second winter raw. Last winter the whole raw thing was very, very, very new to me, so I didn't really think about it. But so far, I'm feeling great, and just making sure like I get in like citrus and just enough fruit that has vitamin D. But again, if I ever feel like I am deficient in something or I'm not feeling well, then I definitely would be open to taking supplements.
That's smart. That's very smart. All right, and then let's see. One I used to ask about a lot, and I haven't asked about it so much anymore for cooked vegans, but I think it could be an issue for raw vegans. So have you looked into the iodine thing at all? Do you think you're getting enough iodine? Or?
The only time I've ever heard that mentioned was actually with your interview with Tanny Raw.
Okay.
So yeah, so I've never looked into it. Mm-mm.
Okay. The reason I say that is I don't know if you're familiar with Don Bennett. He's kind of big in the raw community. At least he's been eating raw for, I think, 30, 40 years.
Wow.
And he has people come to him who are raw for, significant periods of time. And the three deficiencies he sees are B12, D, and iodine. So now I've learned since that if you're a cooked vegan, like a potato has a pretty high iodine content, and there's a lot of other foods that have a fair amount of iodine. I know some people try to get a little bit of seaweed in their diet, which may have good quantities of iodine. So just something to consider.
Yeah.
But the fact that you and your involvement in the raw food movement have never heard it, it's maybe there's not a whole lot of importance to it. But anyway.
I don't know.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about, as you said, you were kind of new to this raw food thing, you could say it's a relatively small community that does this. So tell us a little bit about how you started applying these principles. Was it kind of funky to eat 12 bananas at one sitting? Is that kind of what you do? Tell us a little bit about maybe an average day, what you might eat.
Okay, yeah. Well, I had never heard of anyone eating a raw diet until I saw the Christina video. It blew my mind. I was like you can totally survive off of raw food. And I literally woke up the next day and I tried eating a banana meal and I got to 4. And then and just imagine what the rest of the day was like. I was trying, and I was really trusting the videos on detox and all of that. And there's something inside of me that this raw food diet really just made sense to me, I guess.
Yeah.
So a typical day, yesterday for breakfast, it's winter, and I'm in a small suburb of Little Rock, so there's not a ton of fruit options and stuff. But so yesterday for breakfast, I had 10 ripe bananas, and I just blended them up with no water or anything, and then for lunch, I had 2 huge papayas, which are so good. I love papaya, and it's really easy for digestion too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then for dinner, I had some spinach and kale and zucchini noodles, and a mango tomato red pepper sauce.
All right. And did you do anything to prepare those veggies? Did you chop them up, or did you or did you just eat them like pretty much straight?
The veggies?
Yeah.
Well, I
Like
spiralized the zucchini, and
okay.
and then the kale I chopped up. I try to chop it pretty finely because it's like tough to chew sometimes. And the spinach I just threw on in there.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And did you find from the beginning? Did you make a point to incorporate enough vegetables? Because I know a lot of times somebody goes raw and they just kind of just so much love the fruit and they kind of skip out on the veggies, which are so important. What was your take on that?
So, I hadn't really eaten vegetables since I was 14, since I was diagnosed with Crohn's.
Yeah.
And I started incorporating them when I started changing my diet around. But when I went raw, like I was not used to eating that many vegetables, like especially leafy greens. Like I would eat more, I don't know, just like steamed vegetables or whatever beforehand. So, I tried to incorporate, I don't really have a palate for them yet. And so I would put like spinach and and have a smoothie for like a green smoothie for dinner kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was eating like a lot of celery because I love celery and and then once I started getting into like making food and like the more like after a few weeks of eating like mostly fruit, I started figuring out like how to incorporate vegetables and how to like eat more and more and more because it takes your body obviously some getting used to. But now I'm obsessed with vegetables. I love vegetables so much. My salad at night every night is like my favorite meal of the day. Whereas like when you're eating a sad diet, like the best meal of the day is obviously breakfast when you get like pancakes and waffles and stuff. But then when you go raw, like for sure the best meal of the day is your salad at night. It's just like there's something about it it's just so like nourishing and just delicious, and I love it.
That's great to hear. I have not heard that frequently. That's good.
Yeah.
And I take it you do not need to put any oil or any vinegar on your salads. Do you make like dressings? Do you maybe do like an avocado dressing or something?
Yeah, I love making dressings. My whole life have just been like a huge fan of like sauce. Anything with a ton of sauce on it is I love. So I go through phases. You can ask my roommate. Like a couple months ago, I went through a huge Mexican phase where I would just make salsa and guacamole and throw them on like leaves. And then I went through a corn phase where I would do like corn and like what am I thinking of? Garlic and like sun-dried tomatoes and then over the summer I went through a huge mango tomato phase with like hemp seeds in there and like jalapeno. So it just kind of depends, but I put like almost all my recipes on Instagram, so people can check them out. Yeah.
Cool. And while we're here, can you tell us the name of your site and any websites, any channels, the Instagram, whatever? Tell us those names.
Yeah, so as of now, I only have an Instagram account, and the Instagram is rawfully happy. So it's raw and then fully FULLY_happy.
Okay, cool.
Me. Yeah.
All right, good. Now, let's see. One thing that interests me is this is the blending for smoothies. One of the things I've come across is I'm sure you're familiar with who is it? Esselstyn, I think. Esselstyn's so big on the cleaning out of the arteries and atherosclerosis, and his low-fat vegan diet is all about that. And one of the things he says is that chewing of these vegetables like kale, like you do in your salads, the chewing is related to this release of nitrous oxide in the. Have you heard this?
I actually haven't, but yeah, I understand what you're
Okay. So, but when you blend stuff, you lose some of that. But it sounds like for you, you do smoothies, but you also eat stuff in a pretty much raw state as well. So it sounds like you have a good mix. What's your take on blending? Do you think there's any damage?
I think that there's a fine balance between like creativity in the kitchen and like having fun and eating eating how we're meant to eat. And I love chewing and just like eating bananas and stuff, but I have smoothies occasionally as well. I think that as long as you're chewing your smoothies, like for me at the beginning, these are huge smoothies, and like if you have 10 bananas in your drink, yes, it's gonna be a little bit painful. So you need to make sure to take it slowly and chew them, and take your time eating it. And I try really hard to, while I'm just eat and not be on my phone, not watch TV, and just like really focus on it. But I definitely think it's important to simplify meals and just model meal and eat the foods as a whole too. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I sense a strong practical vein in you, which I really like.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's see. What else did I want to ask you? Calories. So this can become amazingly extremely controversial. But are calories at all a concern of yours? Do you think it's necessary to get a certain number of calories? Did you, when you first started doing this, kind of watch your calories, and that now it's kind of second nature, and you automatically know how many you're getting? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So at the beginning, I was really trying to get into the mindset of like a raw vegan at the beginning. So when I was eating pomegranates were in season, for example. So when I was eating pomegranates, like when I first went raw, I would look up how many calories they were just to make sure I was getting enough. And I would also try to look up what the food looks like when it's like growing on the tree or growing out of the ground, so I could really connect with it. And
That's cool.
and I remember buying cantaloupe at the beginning, and I didn't know how many really to like eat and how many calories were in it, and I didn't want to be hungry, so I would try to a little bit force myself to eat enough calories to make sure that I was getting enough. And then after like about a month or 2 months of being raw, I really figured out like how much food I really needed to eat. And obviously it fluctuates every day based on my activity levels and my sleep and all that. But I really try to just listen to what my body is saying. And some days I feel like eating a ton, and some days I don't, and there's no reason to stuff myself with carbs to make sure that I'm getting enough. I just really listen to my body. But I've always been a big eater. I work out a lot, so I burn a lot of calories. And when I was a kid growing up, my sister and I were just like really tiny, and the doctor told my mom to try to get us in as many calories as we could. So I've always had that like make sure you're getting enough food kind of thing. But I think it's important at the beginning for sure. But then once you get used to it, just listening to your body, I think is really important.
I like that. And I like what you said. Obviously, my caloric needs are affected by my daily activity. So, I mean, this seems like total common sense. And, I mean, everyone should know this. So, yeah, if you're exercising a lot, then you probably need more calories. And if you're not exercising a lot, you may not need so many calories. And if you're not exercising a lot and you take in a lot of calories, you might even gain weight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a set like amount of calories people should be getting in a day. I think that people need to figure it out for themselves and really listen to what their bodies are telling them.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Let's see. One thing, let me backtrack a little bit because I wanted to ask you this before. You kind of, when you made this transition to vegan, you did that for like a month and then you went raw. I guess obviously the answer is yes, but when you made these changes, there was no recurrence of the Crohn's.
The Crohn's really subsided when I started eliminating processed foods, and but the thing about it is I was never content. I was never like, this is how I'm supposed to be eating, and that's what drove me to veganism. And then what drove me from veganism to raw veganism was I felt so much better when I was vegan. And like, I really didn't have many Crohn's symptoms, but it didn't feel like I was quite there yet. Like I felt like I needed one more push to get me to feel like the way that I really wanted to feel.
All right. What I wanted to ask you, it's interesting because this all-white diet, there's several processed foods in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that somehow I guess the biochemistry of that was such that it didn't aggravate your Crohn's, but I guess you could say it didn't solve the problem either. It was like you're kind of maintaining, but
right.
Yeah.
Right, because with Crohn's disease, like your intestines get to a point where they're so inflamed that all you really want to eat is like the simplest, most easily digested at least that at this point, this is my knowledge of, diet.
Yeah.
And so white bread digests easily, candy digests really easily, processed meats that were like white meat, digested easily. That being said, I was told I needed to make sure I was getting enough protein and all that.
Yeah.
And white egg whites were a huge staple, and those digested easily. And I didn't eat any oil or anything like that, and I didn't really have any sauces. It was a very plain, boring diet, but it really it allowed me to like maintain and like just function, I guess, normally without worrying about having to go to the bathroom all the time.
All right. Now, on this note, I forgive me, but I think it might be good for folks who aren't familiar with the raw diet to know going to the bathroom becomes probably pleasant and fairly frequent on a raw diet. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's there's a difference. Before, like for me, like my like elimination process or whatever was like extremely painful, like, and is uncontrollable a lot of the time, and it wasn't healthy. And going 4 or 5 times a day, like that can be really negative if your body is just like trying to get whatever you're eating out, and just in a very painful way with a lot of cramping and stuff.
Yeah.
Now I probably go 3 or 4 times a day, and it's really quick and easy. It's never painful. I usually go number 2 faster than I go number 1. Like it's just a no-brainer, and it's probably the best part about being raw is like having healthy poops, honestly.
I love it. I love it. And would you say that is it pretty quick? Like you have a meal and then you go to the bathroom?
It like depends on the time of day. I usually go to the bathroom right when I wake up, and then again after breakfast, and then usually go like one more time in the afternoon. But and then that's like I usually go at the same time kind of every day. So like usually after dinner I don't go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit, refresh my memory, because I'm not raw, but I know that there's some ways you can incorporate things that people might not always realize are actually raw. Like I've heard of some people actually even like soaking rice without cooking it. What are some of the things that you eat that people might not realize you can eat on a raw diet?
Squash.
Okay.
Yeah, I like some like butternut squash. You can make like soup out of it and warm it in the blender. What else? I don't know. Like ice cream, banana ice cream. Totally. Yeah. Like people are like, you eat ice cream, and I'm like, I totally eat ice cream. It's like in buckets, like huge amounts of ice cream, and like I don't know. You just gotta get creative. Like what's his name? The Raw Advantage has a really good raw vegan pizza recipe, which I haven't eaten pizza since like I was 9 years old. So this is a revelation for me.
Okay.
But like I think for me, part of the fun of it is like I love the simplicity and I love my simple salads, but sometimes it's fun to get creative and make pizza and ice cream and that kind of stuff too. Yeah. But I don't eat grains just because I feel like they like don't digest as well as like fruit does.
Okay.
So even like sprouted oats I just kind of don't eat. I mean, I'm not like hugely opposed to it for anyone, but for me it's not something that I do.
Okay. And would that also be true for beans, legumes?
Yeah, well, I mostly don't eat beans because I just don't feel like sprouting them, to be honest. But, like, occasionally I'm sure, like, I would have no problem sprouting peas or something. It's not something that I think of or, like, do on a daily basis.
Gotcha. And I think you kind of mentioned this earlier, but would you say your primary motivation was just feeling better? Mm-hmm. And this raw diet was, like, the best, made you feel the best? Yeah,
my whole life I really struggled with the fact that food was making me sick, and it just really didn't make sense to me. And like everyone needs to eat and everyone wants to feel good, and when food makes you sick, it's just hard to be happy, and it doesn't really make sense. And through my food journey, I kept searching online for the natural like human diet. Like why does nobody know what humans are supposed to eat? That's something I never understood. And it wasn't until I stumbled across the like basically eating just fruits and vegetables in a raw vegan diet was when I finally understood what human beings are supposed to eat. And I really felt like it was the right thing to do, and I wanted to make it work.
Yeah. So would you say that the ethical treatment of animals is also a strong component of why you live this way?
For me, like I'm a huge environmentalist. So the environmental component of meat eating diet is just not okay for me. Like that's just, I mean, that's what really like drives me crazy. But absolutely the treatment of animals. I mean, I have a dog at home. She doesn't live with me in college, but I love her so much, and I can't imagine. It's not even like thousands, it's billions of animals that are being killed every year. And just the combination of health and the environment and then animals, it just there's no way for like there's just no other option for me but veganism.
All right. Could you share with us, since you're into the environment, share with us some of the facts that you learned along the way that surprised you in terms of environmental damage caused by, animal production, animal food production?
Yeah, this is so funny. I have my senior thesis due like today, and I just finished like an hour ago a 25-page paper on GMOs. So this is really,
Wow, okay.
yeah, but so my brain's working right now. So for me, the biggest thing was like food and water consumption. Like you hear all these things like there's starving children in Africa and like in India and they don't even have fresh water and all this stuff, and you're thinking, well, that's terrible. Like we got to get them some fresh food and water. And then I come to find out that like the majority of our food is being given to factory farmed animals who are then being slaughtered, and the caloric like difference it's so low, like the amount of calories out of the process to like putting in the process. And like almost half of the fresh water use goes to factory farming, things like that. And on top of it, like if we stopped all of the world's transportation, this biggest contributor to carbon dioxide would still be the meat industry. So like people are like, we got to drive electric cars and green cars and walk and bike and all that stuff, which is really important. But that wouldn't even make a difference in comparison to just not eating meat. And for me, like another huge factor is the ocean, because we can't really survive without the ocean. And I love water. Water is totally my element. And the fact that the waste from the factory farms are just making our oceans completely toxic is terrible, on top of overfishing and the fact that we're going to run out of fish by the year 2048, I can't believe that either. So those are just facts that like run through my mind when I see people eating meat and quiet. I'm like, it doesn't really matter. This is the bottom line. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's interesting that you've done this paper on GMOs. Maybe you can give us share with us some of what you've learned. It seems that there's a big argument. Of course, people at Monsanto, they think they're doing some service by creating strains of food that can produce higher quantity yields and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Tell us, and then of course there's the nightmares we hear of what can happen with this stuff. Tell us what you learned and what are some of what was your conclusion? Do you think GMOs are good? Do you think they're categorically bad? What's your conclusion?
My conclusion for my paper, first, a lot of the reason was for academic purposes, was we should apply the precautionary principle to GMOs, which is until they're proven safe, they should be dealt with extreme caution and
extreme caution. Yeah.
Yeah, because I compared them to cigarettes, for example. Like cigarettes were once considered to be healthy, and doctors prescribed them for anxiety and all this stuff. In the same way that doctors are saying, or scientists, I guess they should say, are saying, GMOs are totally fine. Like 40 years from now, I feel like our kids are going to be saying, how could they be growing GMOs? Why are they eating processed food? And I feel like GMOs and processed food are going to be the cigarettes of the future. And so what I came to in my paper was that the biggest claim for the biggest reason people use GMOs or claim that we should be using GMOs is to solve world hunger, but we already grow enough food to feed 14 to 15 billion billion people. And so if we have enough food, then why do we need to implement GMOs in the first place? And the reason is because these corporations are making literally trillions of dollars a year from being able to patent seeds. So while they're making all these claims about feeding people and like using less chemicals on GMO seeds or crops as opposed to like organic crops, which isn't even true. Like the bottom line is we already have enough food, and they're only doing this to make like a ton of money. They're making so much money, and I don't understand like why they're saying this will solve world hunger. If they put some of the money that they were making into growing a variety of crops for people in, like for example, India, people would be able to be fed. Instead, they have millions of pounds of grains rotting every single year in India, and there's people starving because they're being overproduced.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Great points. Great points.
Thanks.
So the other thing, so this is kind of a separate topic, but can you tell me a little bit about the social dynamics of living this way? So it's kind of cool you're in school. I imagine the way you're eating is at least making other people think twice. But how do you swing it in terms of, meeting other people for dinner, that sort of thing? Do you often find, you get together with folks at a restaurant and there's nothing there for you to eat, or are you always able to find something? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I'll start with soccer because for me that was the biggest challenge. We're on the road, or we were on the road almost every weekend, and some of the road trips are 4 or 5 days long. So that for me was the biggest challenge. I would bring, obviously, I brought my own food for like 3 out of the 4 years that I've been on the team, just because of Crohn's, and it was complicated and whatever. And I just would bring like dates just as like a backup, and just bring as much fruit as I could. I didn't really worry as much about vegetables because, I mean, I sometimes I would like pre-make a salad or something, but it was just like, I really needed to make sure I was getting in calories. We're playing like 2-hour-long games, and so luckily my parents, it was my senior year, so my parents tried to come to as many games as they could. So they came to the 3 long 4-day road trips that we had. So I was able to like have them bring me some food or like take me to Whole Foods or something.
Cool.
But my teammates were super supportive. I think this goes for anyone, but especially someone who's in college. You need to be open with people, because otherwise they'll think that you're like, you have a problem or something. And my teammates, I explained everything to them. They're really supportive. They all have Instagram, and they didn't think I was like weird or there was something wrong with me. I was very open, and I think that's really helpful. And same goes for my roommate. I'm really open about it, and I don't try to hide anything from her. So she's very interested. Like, she might do a banana island with me in a few days that I've been wanting to do. And as far as eating out goes, I usually bring my own food. I just make it beforehand and bring it in a bowl, and the restaurants are usually totally fine with it. And sometimes even like I'll bring ingredients in, and the chef will make me something, or I think that's the best option for being raw. And also raw vegan restaurants are like popping up all over the place. So along my soccer travels with my parents, we'd go stop at like raw food restaurants and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
When your parents heard you were eating this way, did they at first freak out, or what was their take?
They were supportive of me going vegan. I was at school, so most of this happened over the phone. And then I went raw like 2 weeks Thanksgiving, so I went home, and everyone, like, they were very supportive, and my mom bought me, I remember her bringing me grapes to the airport when she picked me up and stuff. My sister was not so supportive, and she's my best friend, so she's also my like toughest critic as well. And I made a raw vegan pie for Thanksgiving, and just made myself a salad and made some extra for other people. And they had a lot of questions, especially like my mom's friends who are like nurses and stuff. They didn't really like what I was doing, but it was new to me, so I wasn't even sure if it was going to work or stick or anything.
Yeah.
But I just tried to be open, and I really tried to educate myself, so I had answers for people. And just over time, people, I think just like living a positive and healthy life, it influences people more than words could ever do. And so these people that were very skeptical of what I was doing have now seen me like blossom and heal myself, and obviously have a lot of energy. And so their worries kind of go away, and their worries kind of turn into like curiousness. So, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And tell us, let's say after a game, your girlfriends invite you out, and they're all sitting around and they're ordering wings and steak and whatever, and you know what you know. I get the feeling you're not the type to make an offensive front to get your point across, but you might provide information if someone asks. So tell us a little bit what you think about that, because some people feel that they need to be belligerent and aggressive with this message. What's your take on that?
I believe veganism is about spreading compassion and compassion to all people. And I was once a meat eater, and I didn't know better. And I think that people, in the same way that I was, they don't know. We're all so disconnected from our food, and people literally don't know. Like, you don't really realize that when you're eating chicken wings, that was a chicken. Like, the connection is lost. And so I've gotten, just through like spreading a positive message and a compassionate message and having people follow me on Instagram so they can see how I live my life and eat, I've gotten, my mom and my dad and my sister all went vegetarian, and my brother's like 14, so he's not quite there yet, but yeah, or my mom's pescatarian, but like they really cut out meat, which was great. And my cousin texted me and was like, I'm eating one less meal of meat a day. And I have friends texting me being like, I cut out red meat, I'm really trying to go vegetarian. And one of my best friends from home, she went vegan, and she got a few other people to try it as well. So I like, it's not an all or nothing thing. If you can get people to reduce the amount of meat they're eating and reduce the amount of dairy and eggs and try to incorporate more fruits and vegetables, that's like really great. And it's optimal for people to go vegan, but I think it's a journey for everyone. And I don't think that being aggressive and rude is in my nature, and I don't know. I don't see it being as effective, but yeah,
Totally. And I also sense from you, since you're compassionate toward meat eaters, I feel that you would be equally compassionate with cooked vegans as you are with raw vegans. You're not making these distinctions super important, it sounds like.
No, I think like veganism is veganism, and it's great, and it's so helpful. And I think the jump from cooked food to raw food is mostly a health thing. So I think that's more personal, whereas like eating a meat eating, I think, is a personal choice because there's other factors that go into it. But cooked and raw, I think that's totally a personal choice, and it's up to, like, I don't know, that doesn't really affect anyone else but yourself, whereas veganism versus meat eating really does.
Okay. Yeah. And something I keep wanting to ask you before I forget, teeth. So some raw fooders find that they get big time into citrus fruits, and then they end up having problems with teeth, or perhaps lots of dates, either through a lack of proper dental care or just the fact that they're taking so much sugar and it's kind of on their teeth all the time. Maybe they're having lots of snacks throughout the day, and it's keeping sugar on the teeth. Have you noticed any issues with your teeth, and do you do anything special to avoid problems there?
Yeah, my teeth, I think they've gotten whiter because I think bananas like whiten your teeth. I'm not sure, but that's what but so far our teeth have been fine. I think I have to get my wisdom teeth pulled, which I'm bitter about, but my teeth have been good. I think it's very important to brush your teeth with good toothpaste. Though I use Earth Paste, which is made out of clay, and cool. It's a good brand, yeah. And
do you know if that has glycerin in it?
It's free of that.
Wow.
I think. No, wait, I'm not sure. I'd have to look.
Okay.
But it's like free of fluoride and foaming agents, and it's literally made from clay and like peppermint oil extract.
Cool.
So it's really cool, yeah. But I think it's very important to make sure you're brushing your teeth and making sure you're flossing your teeth, which is not something I'm good at, and I'm really working on it. But so far I've been good. I haven't had problems yet. But I think dates are a concern for sure. I mean, they're dried and they stick to your teeth, so I think I don't always do it, but I think it's important to try to brush your teeth after you eat dates.
Okay. And
Yeah.
do you often, like, let's say you eat a mess of dates, do you try and eat a little bit of celery with that or a little bit of lettuce with that?
Yeah, dates that I sort of like crave greens when I eat them.
Yeah.
And there's something about this sounds crazy, but dates and kale, the combination tastes like corn pops to me, like the cereal. I don't know why.
All right.
But I love eating dates and kale and dates and celery and dates and cucumbers and stuff. And I really ate dates a ton when I first went raw because I didn't really know how to keep ripe fruit. And I was traveling a lot, and it was an easy way to get calories in, and it doesn't have water, so it wasn't like super filling. Um, and But now that I've gotten more into it, I find myself eating less amount of dates and trying to incorporate them with greens more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do nuts or seeds play any significant role in your eating?
Yeah. Especially recently, I've been a lot less inclined to eat nuts and seeds and more inclined to eat avocados and coconuts. They for sure, avocados and coconuts digest a lot smoother, I've realized. And I wake up after eating an avocado or coconut as my fat with my salad. I wake up with a much flatter stomach and better digestion than I do when I eat nuts and seeds. That being said, I'm not going to for sure be like, I'm never eating them, but I try to eat them less than I would avocados and coconuts. And I mostly eat hemp seeds, and when I eat them, I blend them up because it digests better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you were to have a mono meal of, say, cantaloupe, how much would it take to fill you up? Would you eat like one cantaloupe or two cantaloupes or?
3 cantaloupes is pushing it for me. When I eat 3, sometimes I get way too full, and
Okay.
I usually do like 2. But like when I eat melon, I get hungry a lot faster, an hour or 2
Yeah.
after than like if I were to eat a banana meal, which could hold me over for like 8 hours. You know?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Boy, we've covered a lot. I know you got to go soon.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to include that I haven't touched on?
I'm not sure. I just I always like to include when people ask that raw veganism is totally a lifestyle. It's not just a diet, and it changes everything for the better in your life. And for me, especially recently, I've had to attack some emotional issues that I've been suppressing, and I really realized that these issues are coming up because when you eat raw food, it's like everything I've ever wanted was just to be happy and healthy, and I'm there now. So now there's still other things in my life that I have to work through because I've accomplished that my health that I have been suppressing, I guess, for a long time. And so I just think it's important for people to recognize the picture of the raw diet, and it's not just a food thing or a weight loss thing. It's a whole lifestyle change.
You know, I love that point, Sam. That's such a powerful point. It's like you've gotten so physically healthy that now it's like the psychological issues, they kind of have to be, it's all that's left. There's no distraction from disease or anything. That's a beautiful point. Love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. If I can ask, how are you doing that? Are you doing some introspective exercise or just kind of just trying to kind of observe yourself, that sort of thing? Or
I think self-awareness is the most important thing. I also like to talk to people I'm close to about issues and work through them. And I think meditation is really important. And I don't really sit down and meditate very often, but I practice mindful meditation every day and eating and trying not to do anything else, and just really being aware of my thoughts a lot of the time and my anxieties, and just working through my issues, I think. Yeah.
All right. Beautiful. Well, Sam, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very exciting. I think you're a great example of making this thing work. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So we look forward to seeing you on Instagram. And again, let's see, it's happy.
Rawfully _ happy.
Rawfully happy. Rawfully happy. Okay.
Yeah.
Rawfully _ happy. Cool. So go to Instagram, check out Sam, and good luck with you. Thanks for taking the time to do this while you're doing your final term paper, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.